Imagine standing on a cold, foggy hill in the middle of Europe. It is December 2nd, 1805. You look ahead through the thick morning mist, and your heart sinks. You see 85,000 Russian and Austrian soldiers marching directly toward your position. They are heavily armed, highly disciplined, and completely confident. Now, look behind you. You only have 67,000 men. You are completely outnumbered. Your soldiers are exhausted from weeks of marching. You are cut off from your main supply lines, and your enemies know it. Any normal general in world history would order an immediate, desperate retreat to save his army from total annihilation. But Napoleon Bonaparte is not a normal general. He is smiling. Because everything happening right now, including the terrifying fact that his enemies think he is cornered and afraid, is exactly part of his psychological trap. This is not just a story about a war. This is the ultimate operational breakdown of the Battle of Austerlitz, Napoleon's absolute masterpiece of tactical warfare and human manipulation. Today we are going to decode the exact hidden mechanisms he used to turn an impossible, catastrophic defeat into his greatest and most legendary victory. Welcome to Modus Operandi. To truly understand how Napoleon managed to win this impossible war, you have to understand his greatest weapon, the absolute control of human perception. Napoleon deeply understood that if he fought a standard, predictable battle on equal terms, the combined weight of the Russian and Austrian empires would inevitably crush his smaller army. So he decided to play a dangerous psychological game of deception. He decided to look weak, desperate, and utterly terrified. Weeks before the actual combat began, he intentionally ordered his frontline troops to abandon the most important strategic position on the entire map, the Pratzen Heights. The Pratzen Heights was a massive commanding hill that gave whoever controlled it a total, undeniable tactical advantage over the surrounding valleys. When the young, arrogant Russian Tsar Alexander I saw Napoleon's forces actively retreating from this high ground, he fell straight into the psychological trap. The Tsar thought Napoleon was panicking. He believed the French army was on the verge of collapsing from pure fear. In reality, Napoleon was just setting the chessboard. He was intentionally clearing the center of the field to invite his enemy to make a single fatal mistake. He wanted them to believe they had already won. Napoleon's next tactical move was even riskier, bordering on absolute madness. He intentionally weakened his right flank, the right side of his army's line. He left it completely exposed to attack, protected by only a tiny vulnerable fraction of his total soldiers. To the Allied commanders looking through their brass spyglasses from the top of the hill, this looked like a massive amateur mistake. They instantly took the bait. They immediately decided to launch a massive, overwhelming assault on Napoleon's right side, throwing tens of thousands of troops down from the Pratzen Heights to crush the French line and cut off their path of retreat. But Napoleon had calculated every single geographical detail. He knew the terrain perfectly. The ground on his right flank was muddy, full of complex lakes, small rivers, and hidden swamps. The heavy mud naturally slowed the massive enemy advance down to a crawl, and just as his right flank was about to completely collapse under the immense pressure of the attack, the ultimate surprise arrived. Reinforcement troops that Napoleon had secretly ordered to march an incredible 70 miles in just 48 hours arrived on the battlefield, just in time to hold the line. The entire elite enemy force was now completely stuck in the mud, focused entirely on the right side, precisely as Napoleon had masterfully predicted. This was the exact critical turning point Napoleon was waiting for. By forcing the enemy commanders to focus all their energy and heavy troops on attacking his right flank, the Allied leaders had committed the ultimate tactical blunder. They had completely emptied and abandoned the center of their army on top of the Pratzen Heights. The Great Hill was now vulnerable, isolated, and completely unprotected. Napoleon looked at his pocket watch, waited for the thick morning fog to finally clear under what history now calls the legendary Sun of Austerlitz, and gave the decisive order to strike. A massive hidden French strike force under the command of Marshal Soult charged straight up the center of the hill. Within minutes, Napoleon's hidden army had split the entire combined enemy forces completely in two. The Allies were trapped in their own immense confusion. They couldn't retreat back up the hill, they couldn't communicate with their commanders on the other side, and their organized military lines turned into pure, unadulterated chaos. The main battle was practically over, but the total disaster for the Allied forces was just beginning. The combined Russian and Austrian armies broke into a chaotic, terrifying panic. As the desperate remnants of the enemy tried to flee across the massive frozen lakes located behind the battlefield, Napoleon ordered his heavy artillery units to fire their cannons directly at the thick ice. The heavy ice shattered instantly under the impact of the burning cannonballs, and the enemy's retreat turned into a total freezing catastrophe. In less than 4 hours of intense, calculated combat, Napoleon had completely defeated the two greatest empires in Europe while being completely outnumbered from the very start of the day. He didn't win because he possessed more guns, better weapons, or more soldiers. He won because he understood human psychology. He completely controlled what his enemies saw, what they believed, and exactly how they were going to react to his calculated movements. At the Battle of Austerlitz, Napoleon Bonaparte proved to the entire world that true power is never about the physical size of your army, it is entirely about the strategic depth of your mind. He manipulated the entire battlefield like a grand chessboard, using his enemy's own arrogance as his greatest weapon against them. That is how a single strategic mind managed to rewrite the history of global warfare forever. Uncover the strategy, decode the system. Welcome to Modus Operandi. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep breakdowns of history's greatest minds and hidden systems. See you next time.